Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to express my thanks for the organization of this event and for inviting the European Economic and Social Committee to be part of this very important celebration of World Tourism Day. A particular thanks I would like to address to Mr. Emilio Ferrara, who does every year an excellent job in organizing this day. I thank you for this question because I think you've hit the nail on the head. Really, tourism is the growing industry within Europe, is the industry which potentially we can see much more jobs being developed. Yet again, we sometimes feel it's not given the importance it should be given. And in your question, you yourself mentioned partly of why it is not given so much importance, because tourism is considered a horizontal issue. So it's not dealt directly as such as tourism, but it is very much influenced by a number of other things, amongst which you have culture, youth, training, education, a variety of things, research amongst others. So at a European level, you actually find tourism being dealt with to a certain extent in the different areas. And this is why partly, possibly we realize that not much attention is given to the subject. You mentioned it's only mentioned once in the Lisbon Treaty. It's already a big development. Finally, tourism is being acknowledged. It's true it's mentioned once, but it's being acknowledged. My first major disappointment, I have to say, was beginning of this year when we had the recovery plan for the financial crisis. And the recovery plan is what it is from a European level. Really, where should we address the money to deal with recovering from this financial crisis which we've never seen before? And tourism is not mentioned anywhere in this recovery plan. You get a mention, and very important is the aspect of jobs, but in a generic approach. And personally, I think tourism, unless we handle it very well, is the one area which will also be affected by this financial crisis. And it's a sector which is not affected immediately like manufacturing is, but it's a sector where probably countries which focus on tourism, such as Spain, will be affected now within the winter season, after having had this period of summer and, rightly so, we heard it earlier before, having tourism numbers decreasing. I come from a country in which tourism is our main industry, our main source of income. And even us as a country, we're not yet preparing well enough to face this winter, and we might be facing job losses. So my first disappointment comes in this aspect that the recovery plan has not so directly dealt with tourism. We have the European Tourism Forum, which will be held within 2 weeks, as the paper of Francesco Iannello said, and it will be directly dealing with this financial crisis and the tourism sector. How can the tourism sector actually innovate itself or take the opportunity out of this economic crisis? And it's really an opportunity we need to take, because unless we take that approach of trying to innovate ourselves and trying to face an opportunity, we will be facing a big problem. So from a European Economic and Social Committee perspective, I have to put in a little bit our role as to what we do particularly for this area. And in the subject we're dealing with today, that is diversity, multiculturalism, earlier this year we have come up with a program for Europe. This is our little passport that we would like to have the Council, the Parliament and the Commission focusing on. And here we've dealt specifically with cultural issues. So some of the areas we've highlighted are actually how can we promote the integration of third country nationals. And I believe a very important initiative which came up is the European Integration Forum, which has been established between the Commission and the European Economic Social Committee. Another aspect is actually multicultural diversity in the social model. How the social model, which the Commission has actually revived last year, how it should focus on this aspect. And also promoting economic, social and cultural rights, not only within Europe, but also having this model across the globe. So I don't know if I answered directly your question. As you said, we hadn't discussed beforehand, so I had prepared a number of notes of what we could be dealing with, but I hope I am answering your question. So from my point of view, in a civil society perspective, it is somewhat of a disappointment, the focus on tourism. We have seen a lot happening in these last years. But even if we see this financial crisis, are we thinking a little bit too late by having just in October our European Tourism Forum specifically deal with the subject?